Now, I know what you might be thinking, especially if you just watched the last video, if you watched it a couple days ago when I sent it out. Oh my God, Seth, you've given it all away. What do I need your course for? That's fine. If what I've shown you so far gives you enough for you to be able to get off and running with this on your own and do it, then by all means, have at it. God bless, my hat's off to you. And my hope is that I can help people without you having to, frankly, pay for my course. But for those who definitely need more help, which I imagine will be a lot of people, I know I needed more help than that in the beginning, then I've got the course available for you. But I haven't shown you everything yet. And that's what this video is all about. I want to show you the real trick to getting QuickBooks Online to work well for property owners and flippers. There's one very important thing that I haven't shown you yet, despite all that I've shown you so far. So let's take a look. And just real quick, before I get into it, recapping, in the previous two videos I showed you, I really explained to you what the opportunity is here for accountants and bookkeepers who want to serve property owners and flippers. You have an opportunity to learn the skills here, the specific accounting skills that will enable you to provide accounting and bookkeeping for people in an area where there is very high demand and very short supply. There's not a lot of people who are frankly even willing to invest the time and go to the trouble to learn how to do this and do it properly. Right? And then, of course, there's probably a fair amount of people out there who are going to try and do this without knowing how to do it properly. And those people represent a humongous opportunity for you because you'll get to swoop in and clean up the mess that those people have left behind. And trust me, I've experienced plenty of that over the years. And it's just another opportunity for you to raise the value of your stock in the eyes of your clients. So, again, huge opportunity for accountants and bookkeepers who want to serve this niche. And, then there's the bulletproof aspect, the bulletproof mechanism that I teach, which is where I'm not just teaching you QuickBooks Online, I'm showing you how to put this stuff together in a way that it feeds off the fundamentals. It puts the right cornerstones in place so that by the time you're done, you can prove every number. And one tip there is that it is about how you record the transactions. I also mentioned previously that it has a lot to do with that zero materiality threshold for bank recs and credit card reconciliations. That's a big cornerstone. One of the other cornerstones, though, in this is in exactly how we record the information. There's oftentimes lots of different ways we can record a thing, but how we record it can make the difference between what I would call bulletproof versus what I might be inclined to call bullet hole accounting. Let's talk about my secret weapon here. Now, in one of the prior videos, I mentioned that when I started learning how to do accounting for real estate, I actually met with a guy who had written a book on property management, actually, for QuickBooks. In those days, it was QuickBooks Desktop that we were using. And he shared one thing with me that I'm going to show you and share with you in this video that really unlocked the whole thing. Like, it opened up, the whole world for me in terms of, like, as soon as I understood this, I was like, okay, now I get it. And what I'm getting at is the one thing I haven't shown you yet that has to be done, that has to be taken into account, that has to be set up in QuickBooks Online is it has to do with how we set up your properties. Now, there's a lot of people that'll ask a lot of questions in all kinds of accounting groups on Facebook and elsewhere, and they'll say, well, how do you track your properties? Do you track them by class or location? And the answer is yes, you can. But the one thing you absolutely must do, whether you use classes and locations in addition, the one thing you must do, in my opinion, is track each property with a customer, right? Now, in the case of the flipper construction model, we're just going to set up a customer named for that property because then every transaction has to get tagged to that property. With rental units, it's a little different. We have to track each property that we own as a customer, and then we want to track each unit as a sub-customer so that we can put a tenant in there, show at any given time who the tenant is for that unit. So it might be Unit 1, John Smith, and then when John Smith moves out, we make that sub-customer inactive and create a new Unit 1, and then mark it vacant if nobody's in there yet, or just replace it with the new tenant that's just moved in. That's the real key to how the reporting comes together. And so I showed you, and we'll take a look at my screen, I showed you in the previous video how we have all the construction costs here, for example, lumped together regardless of the property. Now in this case, this is the sample data, that's part of the course itself. So I only have the one property in here. But the point is that when you have 2, 3, 5, 10 properties ongoing that are under construction, not a lot of people probably have 10 properties going on at once unless you really scaled to something huge. But the point being, once you have 2 or more properties in here, you're still going to be able to drill down and get the exact information that you need in terms of carving it up to just see one single property. Most importantly, for the flippers, when it comes time to sell, you're definitely going to need to drill this down to the exact totals for that property so that you know how to prepare the entry to record the sale of the property, which is of course all covered as a lesson in the actual course. So let's take a quick look and see what this looks like. What we're going to do is we're going to click here under total 10,500 construction projects, right? So we're getting everything that's in this section. We don't want all assets because that includes the escrow clearing stuff, right? So we just want to get this total so we know we've got everything that's inside of all 3 of these accounts. Okay, so I drill in here. And initially, I'm going to get a drill down grouped by account. But keep in mind, if I had more than one property going on at the same time, this would include everything for every property. Now, this is by default running for the current month. And for purposes of illustration in my sample data, I've gone out into the future. So I'm just going to drag this out to, I think, June 30th is where you'll see kind of everything. Right? So again, for now, it's just the one property. You can see the original cost, the closing costs. Over here is the construction in progress. And I'm just going to drill down, and I know that 472 is my total, so now I know I've got everything covered, at least for the date range, right? But let's say there was more than one property in here. What I would need to do very simply is customize this, and we'd want to filter it. And you could do name, but your safer bet is to go with customer. And then we're going to select just 123 Desert Plains Road, run the report. And now for sure I'm seeing it, just the activity for this one particular property. Now this right here is exactly what I need. I can use these little arrows. I can zip these up to see exactly what the subtotals are in each of these accounts. But keep in mind the date range you're running. I've run this as of the current month. Construction actually started prior to this. So in order to make sure I'm capturing everything so I can see those beginning balances coming in, I just needed to back up. I, of course, knew that the original purchase was done in November, right? So now I can zip up each of these kind of subcategories, and I can see these are my numbers. These are the numbers I need to work with when I'm preparing the entry. In the course, I go through a little more detail how to clean up this report and make it even easier to read and work with. And in fact, then I show you how you can save these reports. So we go into the custom reports area, and I can show you the property sale transaction report. And this is configured for all dates so that you can see how after I recorded the sale, everything's zeroed out perfectly, right? And then the other report I've got in here so far is just the expenses by vendor. Now you're going to get a glimpse at the new QuickBooks Online reports layout. A lot of people are kind of freaking out like, oh my God, this is terrible. But actually, once you get used to this and once you get used to the features you have access to in terms of customization, this is so much better than what we've been used to. But like many things, it's a learning curve, and a lot of us experience inertia. We don't like something new. Oh, it's new, it's different. I want it to improve, but I don't want it to be any different than what it's that's the paradox of it, is we don't like change, but then we want things to change because we want them to get better. Anyway, with that said, you can see how I've got this set up to show each product or service and the expenses that went into each, right? So like here's 2 different sort of plumbing expenses. This is grouped by vendor, so we can see the different vendors. But in one case, we paid them for what we described as just general plumbing. And then here we paid them for plumbing fixtures or whatever, right? So this is materials, this is labor. Okay. And of course, there's lots of other ways you can carve this up. But at this stage, I wanted you to at least get a little bit of a peek at how this works and what this looks like. Now I want to share one more secret weapon here that makes this all work much more efficiently. And first, there's sort of a, for lack of a better word, what I'll call a weakness inherent in QuickBooks Online's bank feeds area, right? So let me go over here and show you something. I'm going to undo this. okay, which basically puts it back to where the transaction's just been downloaded, okay? And ignore the fact that it found a match for a minute. And let's click in here, right? And let's say I just wanted to categorize this. Now, as I've shown you already, really critical to this business model, especially on the construction side, is we have to be able to describe every expenditure with a product or service so that, as you just saw, we could show whether it was plumbing or electric or what have you. In the bank feeds, when I download transactions, I have no access to that part of QuickBooks, to that part of a transaction. The only way I can categorize something directly out of the bank feeds is to code it directly to an expense account, right? Or to one of the balance sheet accounts. So I cannot code things this way, which on the surface is going to look like a big weakness. Like, you can't imagine manually entering every single one of these transactions, especially when you probably have a lot of transactions for a large ongoing construction project. But not to fear. The answer is, and I'm going to teach you this in one of the lessons in the course, is that you can import. So the reason this is finding a match is because I had imported the transaction using the products and services, so that in one fell swoop, I imported a whole bunch of construction activity, and then when I go to the bank feeds and download, it just matches things up, as you're seeing here. So at this point, all I have to do is drill in, and it would have been on match initially, just confirm that this is the right thing, 15,000 on January 10th, the date lines up, I know it's Acme Engineering, right? So everything lines up, so now I can just confirm the match and I'm done. And you'll be able to do that with a whole list of transactions when you do it this way. So that's why the course is going to teach you how to use a product called Saasant Excel transactions that I teach in almost every one of my courses, because in general, it's so much more efficient to be able to grab, let's say, a week's worth of transactions from the bank, code them up in a spreadsheet, and then boom, do the import. Even if you have to do it daily, the main thing then is just keeping track of, what you've already coded and downloaded versus what remains to be, so that you don't duplicate transactions. And even if you did, that'll flush out in the bank feeds, because you'll see two potential matches and you'll know one of them's a match, the other one's a duplicate, and you can just exclude it and get rid of it. Now, at this point, I want to give you some homework to do. And I actually alluded to doing this earlier in the course, but now I'm officially giving you a homework assignment. And I'm going to make this fun. We're going to make this interactive, actually. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to go invest the money and set up a brand new QuickBooks Online company. Just start from scratch, zero. When it asks you for the kind of company, just choose other or none for the industry. That will cause it to populate the most minimal chart of accounts possible. And then what I want you to do is I want you to invest a little bit of time on top of that money. And having watched the videos, what I've shown you so far, I don't expect you to set up everything, and I'm not prepared to give you the templates at this stage. Those will be included in the course. But what I want you to do is just set up at least a few examples of each of these areas. Set up a few of the charts of accounts, set up a few products and services. You can pause my video to get, a sampling of what kinds of things to set up. In other words, get somewhat caught up with me, and then in the description of this video, you're going to see a link where you can upload screenshots of your balance sheet. It's mainly going to be about the balance sheet at this stage, because really what I focused on is the construction side. I haven't touched too much on the rental side, because the construction side is really much more complicated. But what I want you to do is I want you to upload some screenshots, and I'll post comments on them. We're going to be using an app called Bubble Up. Won't cost you a thing. It's made available to you for free. And I'll comment, and that'll give you kind of a little bit of a taste of what it's like when we're working together in Slack. And you can go in there and ask questions and upload screenshots all day long with the specific questions you have about your transactions. And in case it wasn't crystal clear, because I realized I didn't actually show this, let's go to the customer list and just show that what we've done here. I showed you the results in the report, but the reason that was possible is I've got a customer called 123 Desert Plains Road, and every single transaction, we'll go back to the reports, and I'll go into the property sale transaction report, and you will see I'll go into any of these construction and progress items just to confirm that this is how everything gets tagged. Notice we're in the item detail section. We're using the items, and here's where the customer gets assigned. So every transaction has to get assigned a customer. All right, so just in case that wasn't clear, now it is. So that's your homework. Go put a few transactions together based on putting just a sampling of the accounts and products and services and so on, just to get the basic idea in place. And send me screenshots of your construction in progress account on the balance sheet, or drill into the details and show me a few transactions that you've recorded, and make sure you show me how it's coded to a particular property. And then, like I said, I'll comment back for you and give you any feedback I have about how it looks and so on. And if you've done that, then you're really going to be ready for this course, like as much as one could possibly be ready to dive into a course like this and really get into the details and the nitty gritty, everything I'm going to show you how to set it up from zero. It's going to get that much easier for you if you've taken the time to do this exercise. So here's what's coming next. Like I said, I've really, even though it seems like I've shown you a lot, I've really just scratched the surface here. I'm frankly giving you just enough so you can start playing around without getting completely overwhelmed. So bottom line, make sure you're on the early bird waitlist. Every email you've gotten that led you to each of these videos has the link. I'm also going to provide the link on the very page where you're watching this video. Make sure you get on the early bird waitlist, because I only have a couple more of these videos, and then we're going to launch the course. And once we launch the course, like I said, I'm only going to take in the first 100 to 150 people. This is a huge topic. People have been requesting this course from me for years, so I know there's going to be a lot of people that want to get in. I'm going to limit it to the first 100 to 150 people, where I can really provide the hand-holding and give you the attention based on my own bandwidth that I want to be able to give that first round of people that always comes in for every one of my courses. In order to make sure you secure your spot, just make sure you're on that early bird waitlist, and you're going to be the first to know before the general public is informed of when this course goes live. You'll get an early shot, and based on my experience, as long as you're on that early bird waitlist and sign up the very day that first email goes out, you'll have no problem getting a spot in this first round of people. So don't forget, if you haven't already, click the link, get on the early bird waitlist. If you happen to have gotten this far but you haven't watched all the prior videos, I highly encourage you to go back and watch the prior videos, especially if you're going to be able to do that homework assignment I've given you. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and look out for the next video coming out in another day or two.